I think some people would like to live in the past. Have you heard of those people that always talk about the good old days? When everything was so much better? Well, I've done a bit of research, and I reckon there's something they've forgotten. I've written a poem about it, and I've called it, "They Must Have Been on Drugs." I have this little problem that perhaps my face betrays when someone starts recalling how they loved the good old days. When things were made to last, and life was not so fast. And how they'd like to go back to the time when homes were safe and living was sublime. But how can that be true? Because as far as I can see, the population coast to coast all dealt in LSD. LSD, that's right. Not acid, no, not quite, but pounds and shillings and some things called pence. How D can stand for pence still makes no sense. That D was not the only thing that pushed outside the bounds. The fancy L for Libra, that's the scales, well, that meant pounds. Pounds of what? Not gold, just paper, so I'm told, because I still wasn't round through all this fun. I turned up after logic had begun. And I use the term advisedly because LSD was nuts. And folks back then who worked with cash, they really needed guts. With 12 pence to a shilling, a dozen browns. How thrilling. And 20 shillings then to make a pound, how was it thought that LSD was sound? If 12s and 20s weren't enough to send you around the twist, the use of slang would drive you mad until you got the gist. A threepence, some would say, or thruppence, or a tray, was tiny coinage meant to equal 3. And halfpenny for half? Oh, goodness me. A penny, by the way, was just another made-up noun for 1 pence. As I've mentioned, it was also called a brown. If 6 in change came back, that coin was called a zack, or sixpence to be properly correct. Who's Zack? He's some old inbred, I expect. 6 halfpennies would make a tray. 2 trays would make a zack. 6 pennies meant the same again, another zack attack. And that was just the start. Be still, my beating heart. The next step up from zacks and trays and browns were Deaners, Bobs. Yes, please, bring on the clowns. 2 zacks got you a Deaner. Then you'd stand out in the mob because then you had the proof that you were really worth a bob. And 2 bob was a swy or florin. Swy. Oh, why? How could a word for cash be more obtuse? It sounds more like 2 pigs out on the loose. Perhaps that's why I'm so confused. I've seen it like a farm where 24 big browns had caused the swy such great alarm when dropped by Bob's new wieners. No, wait, they must be Deaners, all baked on silver trays and passed around. 10 swys or 40 zacks to make a pound. Aha! It's meat, not gold, that makes a pound, a fid or quid. And if the meat smelt funny, then it must have been sick squid. With 1 less, you could grin, because then you'd have a spin. Yes, turn around a 5 double quick, and 2 got you a tenner or a brick. But making bricks was fiddly, pound for pound, I will not kid. A fiddly did, or green one, or a fid was just a quid. And half a fiddly, less. 10 bob, I must confess. And while apart, both Bob and Quid were skinny. Together they became a chubby guinea. The populace were guinea pigs for someone's harebrained scheme. Just how did 12s and 20s make the living such a dream? The good old days! How grand! I cannot understand how anyone could ever work it out, or how on earth it ever came about. With Browns, Trays, Zacks and Guinea Swis out on a spree, I see why psychedelic drugs are known as LSD.